In 2025, AI data centers devour 500 terawatts of electricity, enough to power entire nations, and they're multiplying faster than the grid can handle. The machines never sleep, never stop, never question their own cost. NVIDIA gained $1.4 trillion in market cap in 12 months, faster than any company in history, faster than oil, faster than empires. But look closer beneath the surface. 207,000 tech workers laid off, hundreds of AI startups, bleeding cash, data centers burning bright. While profits stay dark. The smartest technology humanity ever built runs on mountains of debt, oceans of electricity, and one fragile assumption that infinite growth never ends. Three patterns are emerging: circular financing, energy traps, mass layoffs, the same three patterns that killed Dotcom. But this time the stakes are exponentially higher. The bubble is bigger. The debt is deeper. The infrastructure costs more than small countries spend in a decade. And unlike 2000, this crash won't just erase stock portfolios. It will reshape who controls energy, compute, and power itself. The question isn't if the cycle repeats. The question is, are you positioned for what comes after the collapse? Or are you still buying at the top? The 1990s interest rates collapse. The internet explodes into public consciousness. Netscape's IPO sends Wall Street into a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone from bankers to bartenders believes they're one stock pick away from retirement. Between 1998 and 2000, over 12,000 dot-com companies materialized from thin air. NASDAQ doesn't just grow it. Quadruples the chart, doesn't climb, it launches vertical exactly like GPU pricing curves today. The collective delusion. The internet changes everything. Profitability is a relic of the old economy. Investors throw billions at any business plan with calm in the name. No revenue doesn't matter, no customers irrelevant. The promise of future dominance is enough. Skeptics get dismissed as dinosaurs who don't understand the new paradigm. Now watch 2023-2025 play out with eerie precision. AI becomes the ultimate idea, the super narrative that absorbs every available dollar like a financial black hole. Cheap post-COVID capital floods into compute infrastructure at unprecedented speed. But here's the shift. Governments don't see AI as just technology anymore. They see it as a weapon, the next nuclear advantage. The difference between superpower status and irrelevance. The United States and China aren't competing for market share. They're competing for survival. The psychology repeats word for word. AI transforms everything. Cost is just temporary noise before dominance. Same script, different decade, identical mass delusion, low rates, revolutionary tech, unlimited belief that this time the rules don't apply. But history doesn't whisper warnings, it screams them. And the people who hear that scream early, they're the only ones who survive what comes next. Dotcom collapsed because of one simple mechanism. Price-divorced reality media, hype, and venture capital pumped AR into the balloon companies with zero revenue, zero profit, and zero viable business models went public anyway. The fatal assumption growth would eventually justify any valuation. It never did. AI today operates on three invisible mechanisms. Most investors can't see them, most don't want to. First mechanism, circular financing. Follow the money closely. NVIDIA manufactures chips. OpenAI buys them, valuation jumps. Microsoft pours billions into OpenAI. OpenAI takes that fresh capital and buys even more chips from NVIDIA. The circle closes perfectly. Each transaction validates the next. The machine feeds itself. Here's what makes it lethal. Every player believes they're generating real value. Nvidia books revenue, OpenAI expands capability. Microsoft secures strategic position. Nobody sees the circular dependency holding everything up. They mistake motion for progress, velocity for value. But circular systems have one fatal flaw embedded in their design. They shatter the instant external capital stops flowing. When belief evaporates, the circle doesn't slow down gracefully, it breaks. And when circles break, they don't crack, they explode. Second mechanism. The energy trap. Every model generation demands exponentially more power, not linearly. Exponentially, energy costs accelerate faster than revenue can possibly scale. Data centers multiply across continents, but profit margins shrink with every expansion. The math is unforgiving. GPT-3 consumed roughly 1,287 megawatt-hours just to train. GPT-4 required exponentially more. The next generation will demand power that dwarfs both combined. But here's the trap. Revenue doesn't scale exponentially. It scales linearly at best. The gap widens with every advancement. The paradox cuts deeper. AI companies promise energy optimization for the world's smart grids, efficient logistics, reduced waste, while their own training runs consume more electricity than entire cities use in a year. AI becomes both the promised solution and the accelerating problem. Companies market AI-driven sustainability while building data centers that strain national power grids to their breaking point. The more AI optimizes the world, the more energy AI demands just to exist. Think of it: a car that promises revolutionary fuel efficiency, but requires an entire oil refinery running 24/7 just to keep the engine warm. That's not efficiency, that's dependency dressed as innovation. Third mechanism, hardware. Obsolescence driving debt into a death spiral. GPU life cycles shrink brutally fast. Companies finance chip purchases with multi-year debt. But before revenue streams even begin, the hardware becomes technologically obsolete. New debt replaces old debt before the first loan gets repaid. The cycle accelerates beyond any possibility of control. Picture this. A startup finances $50 million in cutting-edge GPUs with a 3-year payment plan. 18 months later, newer chips hit the market, and suddenly their hardware delivers 40% less competitive performance. They face an impossible choice: refinance for new hardware and double the debt burden, or fall behind technologically and lose all market relevance. There's no third option. Companies don't go bankrupt because they lose customers. They go bankrupt because their hardware becomes worthless before it generates enough revenue to cover the financing costs. The business model becomes a treadmill accelerating toward a cliff. Now, consider the metaphor that explains everything. Dotcom was a Jenga tower, blocks stacked higher and higher, swaying visibly, obviously unstable. AI is a jet engine running exclusively on debt fuel. It screams forward with incredible force. But every second of thrust burns resources faster than they can be replenished. The core paradox: AI celebrates cost optimization and efficiency. Yet each leap in model capability creates exponential pressure on the energy infrastructure and financial systems it claims to improve. AI optimizes the world, but the world must optimize endlessly just to feed AI's metastasizing appetite. The system functions beautifully until the belief runs out, and belief is the only fuel that matters. The instant investors stop believing AI will generate returns exceeding its infrastructure costs. The entire mechanism seizes like an engine that just swallowed. Sand, no gradual slowdown, instant failure, and when that happens, the question stops being about technology. It becomes about survival. Between 1995 and 1999, stock valuations explode 700%. Super Bowl ads from companies that have no product, just promises. Teenagers day trading from dorm rooms turn $5,000 into $500,000, then lose it all by graduation. Corporate offices transform into adult playgrounds. Foosball tables, gourmet, catering beer on tap at 2 p.m. burn rate becomes a status symbol. The faster you incinerate cash, the more serious your growth story appears to Wall Street. Profitability becomes suspicious quaint. A signal you're not thinking big enough. Financial analysts on CNBC declare with absolute certainty, traditional metrics are obsolete. This is a paradigm shift. The phrase "new economy" gets repeated so often, it becomes doctrine. Sound familiar now? Fast forward to 2023-2025. Watch the pattern reproduce itself with surgical precision. Hyperscalers commit $350 billion in capital expenditure, not over a decade. In 3 years, AI startups stockpile thousands of GPU chips before landing a single paying customer. They brag about compute capacity the way teenagers brag about horsepower, raw power as proof of dominance. Cloud infrastructure costs devour 60% of total operating budgets. CFOs panic and private CEOs promise breakthroughs in public. The disconnect widens daily. Middle managers 207,000. Human beings with mortgages and families lose their jobs. Not because their companies are failing, because AI budgets consume the resources that used to fund human salaries. The irony sharpens to a blade. AI-powered productivity eliminates the middle-class jobs that were supposed to benefit from AI-powered productivity. Who wins? The people who own the infrastructure. Who loses? The people who operate it. AI budgets surge 36% year over year every year. Compounding. Data center electricity. Demand captures over 10% of global electricity growth. Utility companies scramble to expand infrastructure fast enough. Some regions face brownouts. Energy prices spike without warning. The acceleration doesn't come from breakthrough innovation. It comes from debt-fueled compute expansion. Racing against itself, companies pile on massive debt, not because they've proven profitability, but because everyone else is doing the same thing. FOMO becomes financial strategy. Fear becomes the business plan. Hardware obsolescence forces debt levels higher and higher with each upgrade cycle. GPUs become outdated before they finish depreciating. Companies face bankruptcy before revenue even shows signs of declining. The dangerous twist: failure happens before anyone sees it coming. A company can have growing user numbers, glowing press coverage, enthusiastic customers, and viral social proof, while simultaneously staring at bankruptcy because debt servicing costs exceed gross profit. The metrics look perfect until the instant they collapse. Listen to the rhythm building beneath the surface. Boom. FOMO spreads like contagion. Chips stack up in warehouses. Debt cycles spin faster. Cloud bills balloon past every projection. Valuations shoot vertical with no ceiling in sight. Risk accumulates in silence. And nobody, not the CEOs, not the investors, not the analysts, dares ask the most dangerous question: what if the AI model can't generate enough revenue to pay for its own existence? In 1999, nobody asked that question either. Skeptics got labeled old economy thinkers who didn't understand technology. Analysts dismissed concerns as failure to grasp the scale of transformation ahead. The market assumed growth would solve every problem eventually. Debt didn't matter because future earnings would be infinite. It was never true. And the pattern playing out today looks identical, only the numbers have multiplied exponentially. The capital is bigger. The debt runs deeper. The infrastructure costs more. The energy demands are more extreme. The geopolitical stakes are higher, which means the eventual correction won't be proportional to .com. It will be exponentially worse. The only question left isn't if the system fractures. The question is when and what single event will be the spark that ignites the collapse everyone pretends isn't coming. March 2000, Nasdaq peaks at 5,048 points. Then it plummets 78%. Dotcom evaporates overnight. Webvan collapses completely. Billions of dollars vanish within weeks. The trigger wasn't a single event. It was the slow realization that promises wouldn't materialize into profit. Faith cracked, then shattered. Now project forward to 2026 or early 2027. The trigger event will be singular and devastating. One major AI company publicly reports losses exceeding negative $20 billion, not from market failure, not from competition, but purely from inference costs outpacing total revenue generation. The announcement comes during an earnings call. Analysts go silent within hours. The stock drops 40%. Within days, the contagion spreads. For the first time, the market sees the truth laid bare. The AI business model cannot sustain its own operational costs. Open-source AI models begin outperforming expensive proprietary systems. Developers realize they can achieve 80% of the capability for 5% of the cost. European Union regulators impose strict electricity caps on data center operations. Climate activists celebrate. Tech companies panic. Compute access becomes legally restricted. The collective illusion shatters instantaneously. Suddenly, AI stops being the future. It becomes a liability. Picture the scene unfold in darkness, spreading slowly across Silicon Valley, like ink in water. Endless rows of GPU server racks falling silent one by one. The cooling fans spin down. The LED indicators blink off. The mechanical hum of millions of machines fading completely to nothing. For years, that hum represented progress. Now it represents waste. The market wakes from its fever dream. The brutal realization hits with full force. Artificial intelligence isn't profitable at this operational scale. And when financial markets wake from delusion, they don't whisper cautiously. They stampede in panic. Dotcom erased $1.7 trillion of market value. 50% of all companies vanished completely. Amazon stock dropped 95% from its peak. I will follow an identical structural pattern, but the velocity will be faster. Short-term, immediate consequences. 90% of AI startups declare bankruptcy within months. Venture capital funding collapses by 70% almost overnight. The secondary market for used GPUs implodes completely. Server racks and chip inventories, once glowing with cutting-edge silicon, now collect dust in warehouses like graveyards of abandoned ambition. Mass layoffs ripple violently through every organizational tier, from early-stage startups all the way up to massive hyperscalers. Watch the cascade unfold. Technology office parks go completely dark. Commercial buildings stand empty and abandoned. Entire floors of server racks fall permanently silent. Engineers shut off their desk lights for the final time in offices nobody occupies anymore. Long-term structural consequences. National electrical grids buckle dangerously under accumulated strain. Retail electricity prices surge upward by 25% or more. Economic inequality widens dramatically. Populations without reliable access to affordable energy bear the heaviest cost burden. Compute power consolidates rapidly into the hands of energy infrastructure giants, creating an entirely new layer of centralized power and control. The fundamental shift isn't technological in nature. It's purely structural and political. Whoever controls cheap energy infrastructure controls compute capacity. Whoever controls compute capacity controls artificial intelligence development. Whoever controls AI development controls economic and military advantage, and that concentrated power will never distribute evenly or democratically. History demonstrates this pattern with absolute clarity. After every major financial collapse, critical infrastructure doesn't simply vanish into thin air. It consolidates into fewer and fewer hands. The essential question transforms who possesses the resources and positioning to survive the brutal consolidation phase. Examine the repeating pattern across financial history, spanning centuries: tulip mania in the 1600s, railway boom in the 1800s, dot-com bubble in 2000s. Now artificial intelligence. The cycle repeats with mechanical precision. Overbuild infrastructure, develop overconfidence in permanence, overshoot sustainable levels, system resets violently. Technology becomes basic utility. After the inevitable crash, AI doesn't disappear from existence. It transforms into fundamental infrastructure, exactly like electricity did after its own bubble burst. The geopolitical paradox sharpens into focus. America maintains control over semiconductor chips and cloud infrastructure. China maintains control over renewable energy production, electrical grid infrastructure, and rare earth mineral supplies critical for hardware. The international race for compute dominance transforms fundamentally into a race for cheap, abundant energy access. The nation that secures the cheapest electricity at scale wins the long-term artificial intelligence advantage. This isn't ultimately a technology story. It's a power consolidation story. And power always flows along the path of energy control. The financial bubble bursts violently. The media hype dies quickly, but the underlying infrastructure remains intact, reshaped, consolidated, and weaponized for geopolitical advantage. The survivors aren't the companies making the most noise or promises. They're the organizations that understood energy economics deeply before the crowd even started paying attention. Human beings consistently overestimate the significance of the present moment. They consistently underestimate the power of repeating cycles. Hype creates blindness. Collapse creates clarity. The individuals and organizations who truly understand the cycle before it completes its turn. They're the ones who survive and thrive after everyone else folds and disappears. Financial bubbles don't represent ultimate failure. They're precisely how markets systematically eliminate collective illusion to isolate real underlying value and enable reconstruction. The pattern repeats endlessly because human psychology never upgrades its operating system. Technology evolves rapidly. Human nature remains completely static, and that creates the edge, recognizing the recurring cycle clearly, while others chase the intoxicating hype toward the cliff edge. History doesn't repeat with perfect precision, but it rhymes consistently, and financial markets are where those rhymes echo loudest and clearest. If you recognize the pattern now, you position yourself fundamentally differently than the crowd racing blindly toward the edge. Because the only real question isn't whether the bubble eventually bursts. It's whether you see it coming before it does. Stay ahead of the cycle because the pattern always completes itself with or without your awareness.